This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello to Game Reserve. We're on foot at the moment with something very, very exciting. Stay tuned, and this is a live safari. In a private something very, very exciting. For the last 45 minutes, we've been following one of the pangolin in this area, and he's been walking around busy feeding. Gonna keep busy digging.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Game Drive Safari this afternoon. I'm sorry, we've got a leopard here. There she goes. She's busy hunting. Sorry that this is happening so quickly. Jared over in Pinder has got a pangolin in a burrow he's trying to show you, and we've got a leopard on move. This is Tundi, everybody. We're trying to give her lots and lots of space. That's Tundi. My name's Steve. That's David. And we're excited to have you. Please send your kids' questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, we've got to keep up with her. She's just there. I just want to get around a little bit here. So, I do apologize for the very rough start there. But when a leopard moves, they move. And we don't want to lose her. At the same time, we don't want to influence her hunting. There's a road here, which is nice. We'll be able to get good access. Okay, she's just there on the left, Darby, at 3 o'clock. You're right there, or can I go to this gap? Okay, let's start there. Welcome to Juma Private Game Reserve, everybody. It is a very nice, windy afternoon. This is the most ideal conditions for predators to be active. And it is 16 degrees Celsius, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And I don't know what Tundi spotted, but probably something small, steenbok-like, duiker-like, that has now vanished into the vegetation. That's exactly what they do. But the wind is making conditions ideal for the predator because it makes animals jumpy. It swirls the wind around. And now she's trying to smell it. Trying to smell where it went to, which is very good. We're going to just poke our nose slightly in over here so that we can just see where she's headed to. Spots there. All the viewers are excited to see her. Well, so am I. We're hoping she'll lead us to her den with her little cub, but we're almost certain that was on Torchwood as of 2 days ago. Whether she's come back again is debatable. She's come back, but she might go all the way back to her cub. There is a dwarf mongoose is unhappy. I can hear him squealing. She was just over on the right. Yeah, but Tundi is renowned for giving us the slip. Don't tell me she's done it again. She has not, I'm sure of it. She's just here. There she is. Sunny girl. I'll just move to the side here so we can watch her do her thing. She's trying to figure out where something has gotten to. She's trying to smell it. Bear in mind, she's also looking for scrub hares and small ground nesting birds. Any of those would form the perfect diet for her. And there's her bottom. Oh, she's going to sit down. That's good. Let's move up again. Get you a nice front shot of her. It's a little bit more open over here. We'll be able to see her from a bit more distance. We've yet to see any small animal that has run away from her. Hello, Emily from Johannesburg, 6 years old. You want to know how old leopards are? Well, Emily, obviously leopards go through various ages in their life. Tundi is 13, 14 years old, somewhere around there. All right, Darby, she's really 13, 14. She might even be close to 15 now. Time surely does fly. But obviously, she's got a cub at the moment that's only about 3 to 4 months. So leopards in the wild, females 16 is normally the oldest that they get. Males don't normally get older than 12, 13. But obviously everyone is dependent or different. And then she's going all the way back again. This is what Tundi likes to do. She likes to ferret up and down. And any animal that's run away from us, hiding in the thicket, will move shortly and she'll be able to see it. She's posing beautifully there for you, Davy. Yep. There we go. There's a wonderful shot. She's sitting on that log. Oh, imagine she went right up on it. Leopards will often use some form of elevation, a termite mound or a log, to be able to help them see more clearly the animals that they're looking for. There we go. Oh, scratchy, scratchy. Now, that serves more than one purpose. They clean their sheaths off their nails and clean it from dirt and sand. And they need to remain sharp and fresh. And there's also thought that there's glands in the feet that these animals might be able to transfer. And you often find them rubbing their face against a plant or a bush or a tree. And there's definitely glands in the face. But they always seem to enjoy scratching. We've actually found a leopard claw sheath once, stuck in a tree, which was very cool to see. They have to keep shedding them to keep them growing and to keep them sharp. Okay, well, she's going all the way back down to Twin Dams, so we're going to go back the exact way we came. Maybe a little detour. Excuse me. Okay, very good. Well, let's send you over to Pinda and beyond Pinda with Jared. See if he can show you what he's been waiting for.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. My name's Jared and we've got Marcel behind the camera and we do have a surprise for you, but unfortunately right you cannot see it. So for the last 45 minutes or so we've been following one of the pangolin whose territory is in this area, and he's been moving around quite a lot, busy feeding, and he's just gone down into this burrow. Weather conditions that we've had recently with very this pangolin came out really early today, maybe about 3 hours or so ago, to come out and feed. So maybe he's had enough to feed and he's come into this burrow now to rest. So I'm not sure if any of you can hear that. This is what I'm hearing. Has the next 24 hours or so, or he's coming here. Very good. Ants, majority ants, they do eat termites as well. And I'm wondering if this is an old termite mound over here that might still have some termites in it. But it's very exciting. As long as we can hear him digging, we're still holding on to our thumbs that he's going to come out and feed. But he has actually just kept quiet. All right, well, we're not going to go anywhere. It'll be very, very exciting if this male does come out. He's very relaxed. He has been feeding in some of the open areas. But while we sit and wait, let's head over to Trish to see what she has.
Good afternoon, everyone. Look at what we have. We have a fantastic start to drive all round with Pinda, with Steve and Tundi, and now we have some zebra. Just gorgeous. Lots of antelope actually grazing together here. Isn't that nice? And we can chat a little bit about why they're grazing together. Hello, my name is Trishal, and I've got BK on camera this afternoon. It's still a little bit chilly, still a little bit windy, and a little bit cloudy. That's all I'm gonna say. But these guys obviously like the weather because it means that the grass is a little juicier. And now they're all working together. So here we have some zebra, and they're going to chomp on the longer bits of grass. And then we have a wildebeest just there. Can you see it? There we go. And that wildebeest is actually going to graze with the zebra and take the shorter bits of grass as the zebra starts to move along. So they actually feed together, one benefiting from the other. And apart from that, they benefit from seeing each other, each other's movements, each other's alarm calls that they may hear. And that means extra ears and extra eyes to watch out for danger. There's also some impala piggybacking on this very comfortable spot of grazing. But they are mixed feeders, so they're going for some of the leaves and some of the grass. In fact, zebras will sometimes browse as well, but they prefer grass. So these impala are not benefiting from the feeding of the zebra like the wildebeest is, but it is benefiting from the extra eyes and ears. Remember, there's also different heights here, maybe different hearing capabilities. So the more variation there is, the better it is for the safety of all the animals. Lots of tail flicking about. They're just stunning. So zebras like juicy grass, but they will go for this sort of very tall, dried, dead grass. And that's okay for them. And the wildebeest will go for grass that's about 15 to 10 centimeters tall. So it's waiting for the zebra to come along and clip it to that perfect height for the wildebeest to eat it. Gorgeous. Isn't that stripy pattern just awesome? And kids, aren't you wondering why it's stripy like that? Well, if you are, you can send your questions about anything that you'd like to ask to Kids Questions at wildearth.tv, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. Now, if one of your questions is, why do they have these stripes? What are these black and white stripes for? And what do they do? Oh, gorgeous face there. Well, there's a few theories. One is that when they're all together, those stripes allow for them to look like they're one creature. So if a predator sees them, they won't be able to tell which one to pursue. If there's just one, it's 5, it won't be able to tell. So that's one theory. That's why we call a group of zebra a dazzle of zebra, because they dazzle their predators. If they stand like that and you're looking from afar, it can be hard to tell how many zebra there is and which one you can single out. Another theory is that the black and white stripes actually confuse any insects or pests that want to attach themselves onto the zebra. So that means zebras, or animals with stripes like this, have fewer pests. In fact, so actually, during the Victorian era, some zebras were taken to the UK and they tried to use them as horses. And they actually found that the zebras hosted fewer pests than the horses did. Also, there's a thing called thermoregulation, where the black stripes and the white stripes absorb different types of heat or different amounts of heat that can allow the animal to cool down or heat up and be regular in their heating. That's why we call it thermoregulation. It tries to regulate its heat. Now, Kay, you're wondering, why do they have that tuft at the end of the tail? Lots of animals, in fact most animals, have a tuft at the end of their tail. For one thing, that adds weight, so it can flick that tail around really easily. And it also acts a bit like a swatter. There's more surface area around that tuft, so it may easily get a fly or something else that's bothering them. Oh, there, everybody is walking into the shot now. I think they've had enough of that little patch of grass, and now they want to move off. Awesome. So they're going to walk off and we're going to keep on moving, but I'm going to send you over to Ambion's Ngala. They have a jackal for you.
A warm welcome to all the kids that are watching the show, as well as all the adults from a very cold and beyond Ngala. So right here we found a black-backed jackal. Now, of course, this time of the day, and with the cold weather and a bit of a breeze blowing, you can see this jackal is taking a bit of refuge just behind that little scrub, and you'll see the grass there as well, probably around knee height. And the wind is actually blowing from where he is towards us. So from my side, I'm Nikki. I'm going to be joining you as a guide, and then with me on the camera is Owen. So I think what we'll do is let's head back to that black-backed jackal, but I do want to show, just look at the weather. You'll notice it is pretty cold. So what we need to do this afternoon is, as we pursue to find some of the animals we're looking out for, we need to try and stick to quite a few of the denser areas this afternoon around the reserve. And hopefully as we carry along, I'll show you on the map which areas that will be, because the denser areas are probably going to be where all the animals are going to move to get out of the wind and into a bit of shelter. That's where we're going to look for some lions, possibly some elephants, and hopefully later on some leopard for this afternoon. But of course, we don't know what we're going to find. We'll just have to head out there and see what else we can get. But you'll just notice from this jackal, I think one of the things that really stands out for me with a black-backed jackal is, of course, the different colors. And you see how well this jackal blends into the rest of the environment. Look at the white around the face. You'll even notice a bit of white around the ears, on the chin there, and on the back, very black, almost like the rocks you can see in the background there. So if he had to, or she, I'm not too sure if it's a he or she, it's quite far to see, but if this one laid its head down, look at that, blends in very, very well. And you can easily just drive past without even spotting that black-backed jackal here. And you can see, just with the head down and body cooled in, it's just trying to catch as much heat as it possibly can. We can just imagine if the wind is blowing, how much body heat that jackal would lose. Sure, in age 15, the weather can, definitely. So sometimes what happens is you'll find that impala and, or more of the prey species, often when the wind blows like this, they have to move to denser areas. So normally you'll find them in an open area in the middle of the day or towards later on in the evening. And then what happens is as soon as there's a lot of wind or maybe rain, they'll start moving into a bit of a denser area for cover. And because of that, of course, the lions and the leopards could possibly use that in order to conceal themselves and look out for opportunity. Also with the cooler weather, it means like the predators might start moving a lot earlier because normally when it warms up, you can imagine now in the heat of the day, it's so warm the lions won't be moving, but as soon as it cools down they start moving. But with cool weather like this, it might even initiate them to start looking out for opportunities to hunt. I think with this black-backed jackal, so often they rely very heavily on their ears, especially if they're not scavenging, if they are looking out for something to hunt. And so with the wind blowing and all the grass moving in the leaves, it makes it difficult to hunt, because if the mice would have moved through the grass, it would have made a certain noise if there's not a lot of wind and be able to go and catch it. However, I think this jackal might have just been patrolling an area, looking out for any possible scraps that would have been left from either wild dogs, maybe leopard, or even lion. And eventually came to this open area and decided to rest up here for a little while. You can see like there was just a bit of noise in the back, and if I can ask Owen just to slowly head back to that jackal, you'll just see it lifted up this head, and there's a few of the doves that just flew up. I think it was they just got a fright. I don't know what spooked them, but as they flew up, you can just see the jackal immediately lifting its head to just have a look and see that everything is still right. And just notice with the leaves in the back how the leaves are moving in the wind. So it is cool, and I think just based on his behavior, this jackal is going to be here for the next little while. And I won't be even surprised if he's still going to lay down for probably the next hour and a half before moving on again. So I think let's spend a bit more time with him or her, not too sure yet. And then from there on, we'll start our search for some lions this afternoon. But Owen, if I can ask, I just want to quickly run through the map here just to show all the kids what we are planning to do. So next time that you are in the bush and mom and dad are like, okay, let's go and explore some places, you need to remember that whenever the wind is blowing and there's a bit of rain and it's nice and cool, you need to go to denser areas because that's possibly where the animals are going to be. So they'll try and avoid the open areas. So if you look right over here on this map, you'll notice there's a very bright blue line that cuts across this whole reserve. So that's basically the dry riverbed. Now normally this area here would have a lot more cover. It's a lot denser than comparison to most of the other open areas. But for us, this is where we're going to be exploring this afternoon, and hopefully there's a chance of finding some lions, possibly leopard, and whatever else we can see along the way. But while we do that, we're going to send you back to Steve, and apparently he has found a leopard. You probably would have seen it. All right.
Thanks, Nikki. Yes, well, we are sorry about the poll. It is raining here in Juma. There's Tandy. She's on the move. And you see where she's crossing is a game path. And it's a game path that we've found her walking across many times. It's a game path I check regularly for tracks. And you can see why. She just walked across there. Her previous couple of litters, she denned just around the corner here. We found her once over here with the babies. To try to keep up with her now. Just trying to give a look to everybody. She's on a mission. A mission for two. She's trying to catch some dinner. We have yet to see one of the elusive animals she's trying to pursue. There she goes. Leopard in her habitat. It's very tricky to stay with her and also give her the space she needs. Important though. You do have the advantage of having a very long lens, but when she disappears into a thicket. Ashton, you want to know how I know when a leopard is happy? Well, when they're doing their normal behavior. Any animal that's practicing absolutely normal behavior is in a fine mood. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy, but a leopard that's not happy with you will growl at you. An elephant that's not happy with you will trumpet. A lion that's not happy with you will growl as well. Obviously, these are things we don't want to have happen to us. But any animal that's going about their normal day-to-day sort of lives, be it cleaning, eating, sleeping, drinking, grooming, whatever it might be, is telling you that they don't care that you're there. A leopard that's not relaxed, they will go flat, and if you see them, they will probably run away. I'm just going to pop over this little log. So that is what we call skittish versus habituated. Thandi is very habituated. She was born to a mother that was relaxed, to cars, but she still has her days where she lets people know, not happy. It's called the Thandi smile. This is a very easy area to lose her in. Remember with Jamie or James tracked her to a hole in the ground over here that ended up finding the cubs, the previous litter of cubs. Oh no, she's done it again. It's that fine line between keeping your eyes on her and giving her space. Bobby, she is taking us on the usual fruit loop. She loves to walk along this river's edge, this riparian vegetation edge. She's going to walk behind us now, of course, because that's where she's trying to chase Dacre out of. It's a prime habitat for Dacre, which is an animal that I've seen her probably with more than any other. So she's just going to go behind us. She's gone back that direction. The Franklins have just shouted at her. No, she's going back the way she came. Okay, very good. Well, I'll give you one more image of her. She moves through the thicket, and we're going to send you back over to Jared, who's still waiting for his pangolin.
Steve, I'm most certainly playing the waiting game at the moment, and often patience does pay all, like I did the last time we managed to find the pangolin. But I believe that there's a couple of kids out there wondering why I have a rifle with me, to why we have this, maybe why Dylan doesn't have it. So as you can see, the area that we're walking in at the moment is very, very thick. And there is lions, leopards, black rhino, elephants, even sometimes hippos that will walk through this area. And unlike in Tswalu, which is really, really open, and so they can see from a long way away, so they're not going to be surprised by anything. But this is completely just here for safety. We're not here to hunt. The last thing we'll ever want to do is hunt an animal. It is just for safety, and it is the last resort. And I've never had to use it before, and I'm pretty sure my training does involve me being able to avoid a dangerous situation, and if there is one, how to de-escalate it. All right, well, let's carry on to this pangolin. So it's quite interesting. We've been watching him feed, like I said earlier, for about an hour and a half, and he was feeding, and then all of a sudden he stopped feeding, and he kind of like started beelining for this area. And I can see that this is an area where this particular pangolin has probably burrowed quite a few times. Now his burrow's down there, and it's amazing because I could hear him digging over here. So he walked down there, the tunnel must come back on himself, and I could hear him digging right underneath my backside almost. So I think that he was just doing a bit of excavation work. I was hoping that it was maybe because he was feeding, maybe he knew that this was an active termite mound, and so he was feeding and then he was going to come out, but we haven't heard him digging now for about 2 or 3 minutes. And so I do unfortunately think that he has gone to sleep, which is actually quite normal for particularly younger pangolins. You do find when you look at different ages of pangolins, so young pangolins we have had rain over the last 2 nights. Pangolin don't like very cold weather and they don't like rain, and so he wasn't feeding at night time when he should have been. So I think he came out a couple of hours earlier than what he normally would have, and now he's gone back down into his burrow, which is a little bit unfortunate. So I'm glad all the kids, I believe you're all saying thank you for the explanation. I'm glad I could answer some of the questions that you might have had in your head. Maybe we know the area that he's in now. We have been seeing, when we've been following him, lots of areas where he's been feeding every single day. So I'm sure he's going to come and feed in this area. So unfortunately, I think we're going to leave him and go see what else we can find. This morning we found a black rhino, so I'm thinking, well, let's go from a pangolin to a black rhino, why not? So let's head into the area we had a black rhino. And while we walk back to the vehicle and go search for the black rhino, let's head over to Tswalu. I believe they've got something milling around.
Okay, so Tilo, our researcher, some of you met him the other day. Sorry, this has been a bit of a crazy afternoon, but he actually managed to track down one of his study subjects. It's in this area, it's been foraging in and out of burrows here a little bit. So we're just going to keep an eye out. If it comes out now, it's one of those Cape Cobras. So we're just going to wait a little bit and just see if it comes out. It was moving around this area over here. There's a number of burrows around this area over here. So Tilo's actually, he's a little bit further down to our left-hand side. He's out of sight at the moment. We're just going to see. We're hoping, no promises, but we're going to see if it comes out here. Okay, all right, there it's actually just come out of burrow, sorry. So that was my bad. Actually, I nearly missed that one. You can see it going there. Look at that. I don't know if you saw that. That was super quick. I'm just going to see. I don't want to go too close to where it was. I just want to see if it actually. There's so many burrows now. So what's interesting is the temperature now is actually. I've actually taken 2 of my fleeces off. So we don't have a huge problem with temperature, and our teams have been seeing a lot of puff adders and cobras around the past couple of days, which is quite odd because it's actually, well, it's not odd for puff adders because we actually slap bang in their breeding season now. But in terms of cobras, you probably find with a big cold front that's hit, the Juma area, that all that rain in it, that front might be pushing up this way, and with a slightly warmer weather this afternoon, there's been a little bit of activity. So Tino's been seeing a couple of these cobras. Okay, I just want to make sure that we don't there must be there's a burrow here somewhere that we, there's a burrow somewhere that we're not seeing. But how cool is that? I mean, I don't know if you noticed, those of you with us when we released that cobra a little while back, it had that beautiful mottled, almost like a salt and pepper color, whereas this one is like a beautiful golden color. And genre, I'm not seeing this little guy at all. So Matthew's 10 has just asked, have I ever been in danger from any animals out here? I've had one or two interesting encounters, but I wouldn't say anything where I was in like danger per se. But yeah, I've set up trees because of buffalo, and I've run away from elephants. Sometimes, this whole thing of standing still, sometimes is a good time to run. And you just need to find that balance of when running is the right thing to do or not. Yeah, so I think this little guy's gapped it, yeah. But that was so nice to see it. And how's that incredible honey color, that golden honey color, yeah. Okay, I'm not saying this is the hole that it's gone into, but if you have a look over here, you'll see these holes over here. Actually, I thought it went more that direction. But little holes like this, a cobra would go into a hole like that super, super, super easily. And these are all made by rodents. So there's a lot of rodent activity at the moment. Yeah, so, but while we're going to try and stick around here a little bit, and maybe we're lucky and see the snake. Actually, has its tracks over here, sorry. Actually, there you can go, coming from there. There you go, there you go, there you go, coming past over here. And there we go. So it's actually gone into this bush clump. Look here, here we go. There's its tracks over there. So they actually came straight past the front of us without even seeing into here somewhere. So, but I think in the meantime, head over to Steve. He's got a leopard that's hunting, and see what that's up to.
Welcome back, everyone. She spotted a Dacre. Has run away from her. Now, his strategy is to stand very still, and if it gets spotted, run away a short distance and stand still again. And that's exactly what's happened. And Thandi is trying to, I don't know if she can see it, we can't see it, but her entire body is on a spring, almost in moments, ready to just lurch after whatever animal. Dave saw the Dacre, I didn't see it. Exactly what she's been looking for. And there's a number of really nice nearby if she does catch it. Okay, she's ready. Now just bear in mind that this is nature doing its thing. Leopards hunt regularly and aren't very successful. On average, about 20%. They're not just killing machines out there, killing everything. They eat to survive. And she's a mum. She needs to eat to provide for her little youngster. And she's a very, very good provider. Hello, Sean, 15 from Johannesburg. My old hood. You want to know if leopards like to hunt in open or closed areas? Sean, this is the preferred habitat for them. We're just along a dry riverbed. The vegetation's quite dense here. And what it does is it provides, different leopards do different things, but female leopards will walk through these thickets looking for small antelopes such as Dacre, which are the perfect sized animal, small female like Thandi. Obviously, some leopards really enjoy warthog. They will stake out warthog burrows. And then up in the Masai Mara, the leopards hunt also sometimes in the open plains there, but they generally try and keep to dense vegetated areas, or at least semi-dense. Out here, they move between the thickets and the semi-open areas, not really liking to walk in the open because they're easily spotted. Leopards like to remain concealed, only normally coming out to drink and waterings and the like in the night time. Although sometimes they do drink in the day, they like to remain hidden. And in this environment, it is the most perfect of all habitats for a leopard. But they do move between the thicket and the open area. But Tundi, we followed a few times, loves to move along the edge of this river. Bear in mind, we also find nyalas in these areas, as well as impala moving through. So either, is that a wound on her back, or is that a leaf? That's a leaf. Sorry, I had a bit of a shock there. So she's sitting with enormous concentration, trying to pinpoint with her ears exactly where the duiker is. Like I said, we can't see it. It did run before. And that strategy called freeze and flight is a very, very well adapted strategy. Animals use it with camouflage. And it's a very good way of saving energy. If you had to run all the time, you get very tired. But if you're able to run and then stand still, where nobody can see you, well, you don't spend much energy at all. Now, this is where the patience pays off. She wants the duiker to relax again. And when it relaxes, it might flick its ear or stomp its foot. That's what she's waiting for. Everyone's commenting on the ambience, so I'm just going to keep quiet and allow it to play out. Alicia, 7 years old from Ireland. Do you want to know, why do leopards have whiskers? Well, it's all about sensory awareness. There's probably way more to whiskers than we truly understand, but the whiskers are a sensory element in probably with regards to smells and feeling, and also the whiskers indicate to the leopard exactly how small the space is that they're walking through. Because the whiskers, she's not happy. She's so tense there that her lip has started to shake. So there's probably way more to it than we know. She's about to spring. No, it looks like she's going flat. And so the whiskers allow many, many things we probably can't even guess at. But one of them is spaces that they move through. And whiskers will indicate exactly how much space there is, so they don't get stuck, I suppose. But there's probably way more to it than we know. Obviously, they're probably able to pick up certain chemicals on the wind. There's glands on the face. They're constantly rubbing. Very good question. And now she's going back to sleep. Exactly what cats do. Bouts of energy and then rest. So that duiker's strategy has paid off. The duiker is now well hidden, and she's going to wait to see exactly what happens. Well, thank you, boys and girls, for joining us on the Kids Show this afternoon. For all the regular viewers, please feel free to send through your questions to #WildEarth. Throw them on the YouTube chat stream or send them through on Twitch. In the meantime, we're going to send you over to Nikki. Hang on, we might wait here another moment, if that's all right, Emma. She's been waiting for the animal to move. And it's moved. Quiet for all of you so you can just hear the birds and the anticipation. No, Tandy, don't go down there. Okay, well, we're going to have to try and make another plan to get to where she's gone. She's gone down into the drainage. And so now I guess would be a good time to send you back over to Nikki. Miss Giraffe.
So we decided to, remember, as we mentioned, our plan to come down towards the river and have a look and see if there's any signs of possibly some of the animals that have gone into a bit of a dense area for cover. And we found this whole journey of giraffe. So you'll notice there's quite a few. Have a look at that one. Definitely enjoying that branch. You can just see how it's picking it and how the branch is moving because of how that giraffe is picking the leaves. And you'll notice there's quite a few other ones that are off to the right. I think earlier on we counted close to 7-8 giraffes. And you know what, there's another one, and I think, remember that one from earlier that you were pointing with its head in the bush? I think we might be able to get a glimpse of that one. There it goes. So earlier on we couldn't see this giraffe, we only saw the bum, and the rest of the giraffe was actually in the bush trying to get to some of the greener leaves. But it's definitely one of my favorite animals. Very elegant, majestic when they move. Also, it might look like there's could be a few wildebeest around as well, but they've just moved into a bit of cover. If we do see them coming out, I'll definitely point out so we can have a look. Now, what's interesting though is that with these giraffes, so the wind. Just to give you an idea from where the wind's coming from. So the wind's basically coming down from where they are towards us. In other words, the giraffe are moving into the wind. And it's very interesting. A lot of people, there's a theory that whenever they feed, trees are able to communicate with one another. So within the tree, it has something called tannin. So as soon as a giraffe starts feeding off a tree, the tree would produce this tannin. It makes it taste unpleasant. So the giraffe will prevent the giraffe from eating the whole tree. And that's the tree's way of protecting itself. It's one of the ways. So apparently they reckon that the trees are able to communicate via pheromone, so just a smell. So as soon as that leaf is crushed, all the trees downwind of it will naturally produce more of the tannins, that unpleasant tasting chemical, and because of that they'll eat less of it. So that's why when giraffes feed, they tend to feed into the wind. It might also be another way, to detect if there are lions that we are looking out for, if they might be around. Remember the other day we found that leopard when we just looked at all the giraffes staring, but you can see they are not staring at anything at the moment. The way they're just moving in amongst the trees, very relaxed. You can see they're mainly just focusing on possibly getting something to eat. See that one off to the left? You'll notice how it was staring for just a little while at the ground. I think it might have been a francolin or something that moved, but often if there's predators, you'll notice them staring quite intensely at something. See that one right off to the left also staring? Might have been just something moving in the thickets. But I don't think it's I agree with you. Like, they have very unique patterns. I mean, if you look at them, like, I've often asked the question, like, why would their patterns be like that? Now, I mean, this is just my interpretation of it, is that if you look at the patterns, let's say that giraffe that's feeding off or that one, let's say the one moving on the left now. Do you notice that the patterns around the neck starts very broad? And as you go down to the legs, it almost disappears as spots. Now imagine the canopy of a tree. When you go to the outer branches, it's very widely spread. And then as you go like closer towards the trunk, you'll notice that it disappears, of course, into bark, so into spots. So imagine if a giraffe had to stand in a dense thicket, how that pattern would resemble that of a tree. Very well. So you can just imagine, I know there's a term they use, it's called disruptive marking. So in other words, it just breaks up the outline of the body. So it makes it a bit more difficult to see. So we are going to carry on. Like, we'll leave these giraffes. I think what they're going to do from here is just continue on feeding. They might eventually go down. I know from where those trees are, there's a bit of water in the back to go and drink. They might have even come down from that area, had a drink, and now moving up. But I think while we are moving on, we're going to send you across to Taylor, because apparently she's got some lions.
No, I have not. It sounds like an incredible day, though, with all sorts of wonderful creatures. We are back at the carcass, where the buffalo is now just a pile of bones, and the lions have got even bigger bellies. But the wind is still blowing, and the lions are still around. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is broadcasting live from Pangolins here in the Great Kruger National Park. So it's very exciting. I'm hoping, though, that this afternoon we would have arrived on a bit more of a frantic scene with vultures fighting off one another, trying to get the last remains. But alas, the lions are still here, holding on to every last morsel of this buffalo carcass. They have literally devoured it. It'll be quite interesting to compare pictures from the first day, the second day, the third day, and then today, even from this morning. The carcass has decreased in size quite dramatically. But again, just some pieces of meat left between the rib bones. You can see they've completely skinned the head of the buffalo. They've eaten all around the face, and they've peeled back the skin on the legs. Surely they're going to have to leave now. I mean, there's not even anything left for the vultures. Barely anything for the hyenas, but luckily they would be able to crack some of these big bones and make a meal out of it. As we arrived onto the scene, we saw quite a few vultures taking to the sky, so I got excited. I thought, oh, well, actually, no, I was a bit worried that we kind of missed the action. But as you can see, we have not. But our lions are just laying back there in a little sheltered section. And some vultures that are being quite patient, sitting in the tree. Yes, Dav, it was indeed a heap of bones, and there'll be even less left once the scavengers enter the scene. I'm very impressed that these vultures have stuck around. There's still a few more trees in the distance with sort of vultures littered on every single branch. And they're just waiting for the ones that are sitting, keeping a close eye on the lions, hoping that they'll move far enough away so that they can take to the floor. And I think some others have given up. How they're catching thermals on this weather and flying, I have absolutely no idea, because it is a blustery day. Now, something that we actually started searching for this afternoon was a herd of elephants, but we were unsuccessful. But never fear, Tswalu has found you some.
I've been searching the whole day, hoping to find some elephants, and finally we have. It's quite a sizable here on Gallagher Shortcut. Interestingly, they seem to have picked up on the scent of something that they didn't like, and there were deep rumbles. Everybody stopped, flared out their ears, and then continued, and they all seem to be heading north quite quickly now. Obviously, that was the message to keep it moving up north. Now, with the wind, it can be difficult for them to sniff out exactly where the smell of maybe a predator or something else that they don't like is coming from. So they will be cautious anyway, because there are quite a few young calves in this herd. They have excellent sense of smell. I'm going to try and roll back a little bit and see if we can get this elephant that is... Oh, no, I can't roll back. Thank you, Rusty. It's all right. There's some more that seem to be coming our way. The colors of the bush is stunning right now. It may look like your typical autumn colors, but in fact it is the bush just drying out. There's a few just around this way. She's going to pass us now. It's going to be a bit tough to see. PK is going to do his best. Big girl, they're still communicating. You can still feel the rumbles. It feels almost like thunder. But they're not terribly upset just yet. But something is definitely tingly. Hi Anushka, how are you? You'd like to know, well, how does an elephant survive the bashing that it gets from the elephants eating them? Elephants are sometimes called the bush's engineers. And that's because by pushing over these trees, they're actually creating little homes for animals. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but your question was more about the survival of those trees. So if a tree is broken in half, it can still survive, as long as the layer of cells that are producing and are active are still around the entire trunk of the tree. We call that layer the tree cambium. That layer is constantly producing cells, because that is the most alive layer, we can say. So by pushing the tree over, it is not necessarily killing the tree. If it uproots the tree, separate issue. Then the tree will have some difficulty. Also, if they ring bark the tree and they strip the cambium all the way around, then the tree can't actually get nutrients up or down anymore. So the sugars that are created through photosynthesis from the leaves can't actually transport all the way down, and the water from the ground can't transport all the way up. And that becomes a problem. There's pretty much a break in the circuit if the tree cambium is completely removed in a ring around the trunk. And that's the biggest problem for trees and elephants, because they tend to strip that cambium, especially now. We're going into a very, very dry season. I know today doesn't say that, but we should be, and we are getting dry or drier, and they'll start to move away from eating these leaves. Now, leaves in trees will have a high tannin content now, and if they eat just that, they can have digestive issues and will not be able to absorb and also this is a because there's so few and when that cambium is stripped, it can be a little bit difficult. This is my friend. Sorry about the internet drop there, guys, but we're back and we have somebody to say hello. Hello, little. You are just stunning. Gosh, I love them so much. It's therapeutic to spend time with them, and they look at you into your eyes, which I find really, really calming almost. I mean, you can see in their eyes when they look at you if something is wrong. By feeding in this somewhat destructive manner, we create all sorts of tiny inverts to turning over soil because they'll uproot trees. Oh. That's why Mum's a little nervous. I'm sorry about any breakup there, guys. But I want to sit with these Ellies for a little bit longer. I'll send you over to Nikki. He's got a pile of fluff.
So as we moved away from those giraffe, we stumbled across two hyena. So just notice on the right of the frame there is very well camouflaged, but you'll notice the spots and a bit of like a yellow brownish color on the back. So that's the spotted hyena. So there's one there, and now we're going to try and show you the other one. This one is a lot lighter in color, so I think it might be a youngster, but we're going to try and see if we can get you to see this. It's just through the trees there, but lying down quite flat. And I think, remember earlier we mentioned with the wind blowing like this and it being nice and cool, that most animals are going to find a little bit of refuge. Now, even though they're on an open area, you'll notice, I'm going to ask Owen just to zoom out as we pan to the first one we had. You'll notice, look at all the trees in the back. So there's quite a bit of cover here for them. And basically where they are quite sheltered from the wind. Of course, there's also other animals in the area that... Oh, there's actually a jackal. So, Owen, just left of that hyena, slightly left, there's a jackal that's just moved into the frame. You know what I'm going to do? Oh, there he goes. Let's see how that hyena is going to react once he gets too close. Ah, didn't even lift its head. But this is a good sign. I mean, finding hyena and jackal in the area now. With these hyena, we know there's a den somewhere in this area. However, there's a good chance that there could have been a kill here over the last few days, and possibly that's why the hyena and the jackal could be in the area, or maybe even lying down in this open area. I haven't seen any vultures around. It might be because it's too cool for them at the moment to be flying. But there's a good chance as we carry on, we'll be looking out for some possible tracks and signs of some of the predators that might be here. Now, the lions that you saw with Sean last night, apparently their last direction of the tracks were heading more or less in the direction that we are heading in now. So there's a good chance that they might be in this area. We just never know. You know what I might just do? So I think what we're going to do from here is we're going to carry on, because these hyenas aren't going to be heading anywhere pretty soon, and they are pretty flat at the moment. But while we do that, we're going to send you to Tswalu Kalahari, because apparently they have something underground. So let's go and have a look.
So on the June, I showed you like a really sketchy house or home or molehill of these Damaraland mole rats, and on our way back from seeing that cobra of Tilo, it was quite cool because we got a beautiful example of exactly really what I wanted to show you the other day. And if you look behind me in the distance, you'll see this line of mounds all the way out there, ding in a row, and then they're zigzagging out through this little thicket to my left, and then all the way in front of me here. And what I'm seeing from the ones right at the back to these ones closest here, they're actually getting fresher and fresher and fresher. You see the one right at Genre there? And it's a really nice example of a colony of Damaraland mole rats that are following a line of some kind of food underground. So you'll probably find there's a extended root system of something underneath here, probably one of the cucumis, or else these can also be exploratory tunnels that they're making to look for food, and that would probably, to my mind, probably make more sense out here. It is this particular area that we're in is quite barren. I'm not seeing a lot of those cucumis plants. There's one or two of them around, but not a lot, and they're all dry in that. So these mole rats are probably actually starting to expand a little bit, trying to find food items. But relating these mole rats, the cobra that we just saw, they will prey on mole rats if they get half a chance. But the problem is these mole rats are super adept at obviously avoiding any predation underground. So a cobra would actually have to go all the way down this burrow to try and get it. And what these little guys do, they actually push sand up in front of them. And when they're digging, they actually use so they get these massive incisors, and they are known for biting. You know, people doing research on them, you've got to be so careful how you handle them, because they will clamp onto your finger and they do not let go until there's lots of blood. So when they're actually creating their tunnels, they use their incisors to bite it. And if they're blocking up a tunnel, they'll actually just push sand up in front of them. So any predator coming down there, it just pushes. Jessica has just asked if I can repeat the name of them. They are called Damaraland mole rats. So Damaraland is an area in Namibia, up on the northwestern side of Namibia, and they occur up in that area as well, and that's actually where they get their name from. But my nemesis in terms of mammals on Tswalu, I'm crazy about pangolins, I'm crazy about aardvark, but there's one animal that we know occurs here that in 15 years I've yet to see it. And that's probably the single most dangerous, biggest predator on Damaraland mole rats. And that is called a snake weasel. A snake weasel. Tiny little thing that's probably twice, maybe just a little bit thicker than your thumb, and they actually go underground and they'll hunt rodents underground, specializing on them. There's only a handful of people that have ever seen them above ground anywhere, and we've had one sighting from a researcher actually working on mole rats that has actually seen a snake weasel. So that's my nemesis in terms of mammal life on Tswalu. That's the big one for me, and he's small. But I think in the meantime, one of our colleagues has got a great leopard sighting, I think. So head over there, and Genre and I will see you shortly.
It is me. Thanks, Dylan. Yes, what did you say? A weasel? Snake weasel. I'm not sure I've heard of anything like that before. But after Tandy's busy moments, we spent a bit of time trying to find her. And she just crossed the little drainage line. We had to go all the way around, and we've been searching up and down for her. And she was probably 30 meters from where we left her, and she decided now's time to take a nap. What we are really hoping for, though, everybody, obviously we want her to get a meal, but we're hoping for her to lead us towards her little boy. It is possible that she's come back onto Bateleur with her boy. She has been moving him quite regularly of late. And where she currently is now is pretty much the area she spent denning with the previous 2 litters, moving them up and down around this area. Perfect habitat for Tandy. And she's also been scent marking, making sure that any female nearby knows this is her spot. Any male as well. Of course, she won't be coming into estrus for some time because she's got her cub, but it's one of the reasons why they scent mark within the territory that the dominant male is hanging out in, so that the cub will be protected by that dominant male. Isn't she gorgeous? Now we drove up the river and we almost gave up decided to drive back in and look in the last place we saw her. And there she was. Tom, you want to know if I think a cub's eating meat? And I think so. We found a little poo the other day that looked like it was for the cub because it was just too small and it was quite bloody. So I think it's definitely eating meat already. I just don't think it's eating a lot of meat. But it's very hard for me to say without having physically seen her take it to a kill. That carcass that Tristan found Tandy on and then found the cub shortly afterwards, that impala, it's possible that the cub had been eating on that. That carcass had been moved twice. So without us physically seeing, I think it's very possible the cub is eating meat, but I have no proof to back it up. The poo we found, by all means, also could have been just a little poo from Tandy. We'll be sure to bottle it up and send it for lab tests so we can find out who the father is. Emma says, never has a poo sounded so cute before. Indeed, Emma. Very, very cute poo. See how alert she is. She might look like she's resting, everybody, but her body is ready to go in a moment's notice. There's obviously threats to leopards in the form of lion and other leopard and hyena. But then she's also listening for the footfalls. But we're going to stay here with this camouflage leopard, send you over to Nikki, who's got an aerial predator.
So there's a Bateleur that's sitting at the very top of this tree. So just want to quickly grab my binoculars just to have a look. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything around at the moment, or if it's just maybe using that branch just as a bit of just a spot to rest. But look at the different colors. Beautiful white stripe, almost looks like an arrow that goes from the neck all the way down that white, and then of course on the flanks, and then the bright red-ish beak. You'll even notice sometimes with Bateleur, if you're not too sure and you can't really see the face, or even if it's a youngster and it's brown in color, you can look at the wings. You notice that the wings and the tail is quite short, and the wings actually extend beyond the tail, and that's one of the characteristics of a Bateleur. Now what's amazing is we're actually sitting here and we can hear lots of elephants right in front of where that Bateleur is. There's actually one that I think I can see in the distance. So I'm going to try. Let's see if this is going to work. Owen, so see on the horizon, there's that big tree there. Yes. So there we go. So there's quite a few elephants around. Now what I'm hoping for is there's a water hole that's not too far away from here. And I'm hoping that these elephants eventually go down to the water, or some of them might have even gone down to the water. So maybe let's give it a go. Let's see if we can get another glimpse of this Bateleur. He might fly off. But what we'll try and do is slowly maneuver our way forward, see if we can get another glimpse, and then maybe loop around until we can get a closer view of this elephant. But let's give this a go. So let's first just have a look. It looks like he might fly. See the way that he's moving on that branch. Okay, let's have a look. I don't know who's called the Owen or that Bateleur. I think Owen. All right, let's try this. So I'm going to slowly try and creep forward. So just bear with us as we try and do this. Okay. Now we are quite far off. I'm just hoping that it doesn't fly at the moment, but we're going to slowly creep forward and see if there's another gap, and we'll have another look. Andrew, I couldn't agree with you more. I would also say it is a very, very beautiful bird. Just have a look at that. So I know the color, because of the lighting, you might not be able to see the color very well, but just have a look. Especially hopefully it turns a little bit more to the side and we can see that bright red beak. can even notice how the wind is just blowing almost from the back. Look at that little crest that it forms. Now, I know I've mentioned it before, but maybe to some of our newer viewers that haven't heard it before, or we haven't been able to show the example. So I'm just going to try and see if I can find the Bateleur in the book. But I'd like to show you something very interesting, how to tell the difference between the male and the female. So I just want to quickly run to the book while we have a look at him. Right, let me just get it. Okay, here we go. So it's hard to see from this angle, but what I would like to do is just quickly show a photo, and then we can run through of how we normally do that. So if you look here, you'll notice on the Bateleur there's quite a bit of white on this section here, and then a lot of black. Now, how I remember it is, if I look at a wedding, so a man, when he goes to a wedding, of course, wears a tuxedo. So he wears a white shirt and black pants. So almost halfway, it's going to be white, and halfway, of course, going to be black. With the woman, is she's going to have a white dress with black shoes. So it's going to have more white and then only a little rim of black at the end. So that's how to tell them, especially when they're flying. You can tell the differences by looking at that. But I think for now, while he's still there, let's just have another glimpse. I mean, this is really special. You don't often see them sitting still like this. I think the weather is in our favor today because of that. But normally they do fly. So we're and beyond, so you'll probably notice with and beyond there's a Bateleur eagle in the back of our cap, as well as some of our branding. Now, apparently the story goes that when they decided, so Pinda was the very first and beyond reserve that they started, or first with Mountain Lodge was the first lodge. So anyway, when they were setting up the area in order to bring back the wildlife, because that's what Pinda means, the return, is at that moment a Bateleur flew overhead while they were doing all of that. And so then from there on, it became part of us. So how's that? So I think like that. So as that Bateleur is carrying on, possibly going to explore new areas, that's what we're going to do, go see if we can explore and find those elephants. But while we do that, we're going to send you back to Tandi, back at Chuma.
Yes, we have. There she is, Darby. Sorry, she's just decided to move, everybody. And, well, now we've had to move, of course. She is somewhere there. There she is. Now she's busy eating some grass. It's a very characteristic thing for dogs and cats to do. Eat grass. And if you wonder why they do it, try do it yourself. Go and get a bit of grass and eat it. It will cause you to vomit. And what that does, cats, because they lick themselves, they clean a lot of fur off their bodies. They also ingest a lot of fur in their diet. That fur is not digestible. Not for cats, anyway. Hyenas are somehow able to digest bone and fur. She's just gone into the thicket. And so it'll cause them to regurgitate a fur ball, which is really hard to watch sometimes. Okay, so just going to try and move up here a little bit. Watch out there, Davy. That branch is going to whip you. Okay, she's just here. Can you see her? Are you good? Okay, we're still trying to give her space, everybody. We hope she catches something. That then creates an established sighting, because she will hoist it. Obviously, if it's a scrub here, she probably won't. She's going to sniff the tree, my tree. There we go. Rubs her body, sprays some urine, and down into the river she's. We always check this river. We look for tracks in the sand. A black-headed oriole, alarm calling next to me. If you have the time, everybody, and the inclination, please feel free to go to the link below. Support. We can continue to bring you wonderful images of our wonderful wildlife from the African wilderness. Contributions are most welcome. Highly appreciated. Going to, we've got someone else in the sighting. I'm just going to let him know that he can probably go down there if he wants to see her. Excuse me while I talk on the radio. Graham, she's just lying down on the riverbank itself, right next to the river. There, she had a bout of movement, everybody. She moved, 40, 50 meters, and she's sleeping again. Opportunistic. The wind has also dropped. It was quite windy before, and that would have been really stirring up the smells and making the sounds, or muting the sounds, or more likely masking the sounds. When it's raining and very cold, that is what you can expect of the cats, is to be curled up in the tightest ball possible. And that's the riverbed just behind, which we drive on quite a lot. And how often do you think you drive straight past and not see that? Jackie, you want to know what's the purpose of her moving the den? Well, Jackie, like we track her, when Tundi goes to and from the den, we pick up the tracks and they go to and from. And leopards have got a smell to them. I haven't been able to track a leopard, but our hyenas and lions can do that. So they go to and from a den. Obviously, when the youngsters are very, very small, they can't be moved very easily, or they can't follow her. So she has to physically pick them up and move them. You can see how skew we are right now. Has to physically pick them up and move them. Now the little boy is big enough to follow her, and so it's all about scent. The smells that she brings to and from the den start getting quite strong, and they have the potential to attract predators. So she moves it for the cubs' safety. All about safety. They don't have the ability like hyenas and wild dogs to burrow into the ground. They just haven't done it for some evolutionary reason or trait. Dogs and hyenas can go right down into the ground and keep themselves quite well away from any predators that try to come and get them. Leopards and lions and cheetah, they look just thick bushes, undergrowth, places along rivers that are dense and impenetrable to a degree. Very similar habitat to where they like to hunt, especially leopard. Concealment, just like their prey are concealed, the cubs are extremely concealed. For example, if she got up and moved and we went and smelt that spot, you would be able to smell her now. But in a few hours, we probably wouldn't. But hyenas are able to pick that stuff up. Okay, very good. Well, we're going to stay with Tundi, see what she gets up to. We sit over to and beyond Gala with Nikki and some elephants.
Big herd of elephants. I think there's close to 50 elephants here. Just look at this one here. You'll notice there's a little branch that she's trying to climb over. Of course, the baby just behind her. I'm just going to move a little bit because this elephant is slowly starting to approach. Now what I might just do is, so the whole herd is basically behind us, and I'm just going to try and reposition the vehicle a little bit, because the biggest thing we want to do is, often with the weather like this, you'll see that elephants are a little bit stressed, or they look that they're not too relaxed, especially if the weather is cold and the wind is blowing quite a lot. So we want to give them quite a bit of space. So I just try to reposition. So there's one just off to our left now. There we go. I'm going to stop like this. So I'm hoping that waterhole's not too far, that these elephants decide to go down to that waterhole eventually. But you'll notice on top of this one's back, the little bit of a lighter brownish color, so probably from the sand, flicking the sand onto its back. And it's beautiful because, I mean, imagine how, like, we can only see a little glimpse of how many there are, but they're all in this really dense area. Remember, we said if it's cold, animals tend to move to a denser area, so from here on, they'll slowly make their way down towards the water. So imagine if we can catch them getting down to the water and all of them having a drink with all the babies around. And whenever elephants feed, doesn't it always look like they have a little smile on their face? Just look at where the tusks are in relation to the mouth, and how the mouth extends up, and the lips quite sharp at the end. And apparently the elephants do. So I've read a lot about it, and they suggest that elephants, like we are, like, let's say, use our right hand or left hand, they'll use one specific tusk more than the other. And I have seen it. I've seen, like, especially with some of the older elephants, you'll notice that the one tusk is a lot more worn down than the other. So they do that, though. You'll notice, I think there might be a baby that will move through soon. See the little baby on the road there, Owen? I think it's following mom. It's actually carrying a little branch with it. Oh, there's another one. See how he's just veering out his ears. We're quite far away from him, so we're not too close. But I think that's his way of just trying to show his dominance. And of course he knows mom's going to back him. Ooh, there's a big bull actually moving this way. You might just see him in the screen soon. So we'll just wait a little bit and have a look at this. Wow, he's a pretty tall bull. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be as quiet as possible, just so you can listen to some of the sounds. You can hear their feet moving through the grass. As they're picking some of the leaves, you might just hear them like wrapping their trunk around the branch, pulling, and you can hear the leaves actually snapping off. So let's just listen in and hear if you can hear that. So what we'll do from here is we'll try and see if we can stick a little bit longer with them. But while we do that, we're going to send you from a big animal to a small animal with Dylan at Tswalu Kalahari.
So we've got this little guy walking around. I'm actually really surprised to see him so late in the season. I'm just going to sneak past the camera there. So the colloquial Afrikaans name, so Afrikaans is one of the languages in South Africa, very, very widely spoken. And the Afrikaans name for this little guy is an oogpister, which means peeing in your eye. And what they do, it's a predatory beetle. Okay, so they are super fast, and you can see how easily he moves there. You've got that little jerky motion, long legs, covers a lot of ground very rapidly, and they got huge jaws. But I won't even try to pick that little guy up because they've got a fantastic defense mechanism. So the name Oogpiste, like I say, which means peeing in your eyes, if something approaches it, on the back of the thorax, they can actually spray this kind of acid. It's a chemical defense, and they spray it sort of vertically and out to the side a little bit like that. And if that gets in your eye, it'll burn. And it's got a very, very pungent odor to it as well. So that's where they get the name from. Not many things eat these little guys. Why I'm surprised to see him so late in the season is with winter having come on. I'm actually just going to see if he'll... Come on. You go. He's already making me stink. I want to actually get him off the road here for you guys. Come on, go that way. So he was actually eating, when we got here, he was eating a dead armored ground cricket that had been squished by a vehicle. But geez, the other guys are seeing all the big stuff today. But I'm very, very, very happy with these little guys. I don't want him to go under the vehicle, just in case I squish him. So come on, other way. I hope you're not filming my bad side. But while we're going to move him off the road over here, and then in the meantime head over to Taylor, who has something limping down that side. Come on, little guy. Come on. Go that way.
It has got an interesting gait, this hyena, and it is just marching on down the road. We're going to follow it and see where it goes to. Maybe it will lead us to a leopard with an impala kill in a tree. That's what dreams are made of. Well, if you're a safari guide, that's what your dreams are made of. But I'm going to carry on. It's just moving quite far out of view. But it's quite an old hyena. It doesn't look very young. And it was also a scary looking thing as well. So I'm hoping that we can get it live where it does turn and look at us. It's very relaxed. It stopped here for a moment. It smelt the air. Probably smelt and saw the impala that are standing on that side of the road down there. But it has now gone... Where did you go? Oh, no. Oh, there it is. No, don't run. Slowly. Steady now, hyena. We'll keep following it. We're on Marula Lane. We only drive this road about 6 times every single game drive. It's so productive. And if you don't find anything the first time, you just turn around, you go back, and then you see something that you've missed. Where are you going? So I'm hoping it does lead us to a leopard. Maybe it knows something that we don't know. We did have some leopard tracks not too far away from here, a couple of 100 meters away. So who knows? And they were on top of the rain that we've had. It didn't drizzle throughout the day, though. But I don't obviously want to scare it. So we're just cruising along. You can see it walking there. That is the hyena. It's on a mission. Cool, good cruising weather. Or it could just be going to the den. Maybe it's a female. She looks quite big and stocky and staunch. And I would imagine it's a female. Daniel, you and I both just want to be cuddled up, let me tell you. But yes, it's good with the predators out here. The elephant's not particularly happy, hiding about. But birds, a lot of them are just perched up in trees. So, yeah, not everybody is enjoying this weather. I'm freezing. I do not like the cold, not even one bit. Okay, I'm going to try and stop just around the bend and then hopefully we'll get a view. But as we drive past, look at this amazing leadwood. We'll do a slow cruise. It's huge. It must be hundreds and hundreds of years old. Showed it to you once before. We will stop and talk about it at some point when we don't have a hyena on the road in front of us. I'm very dramatic. Thank you very much. I love doing this when I talk. Guides, I think that when guides go for interviews, they 100% will get the job if they talk with their hands all the time. Okay, hyena, slow down. No need to go into 5th gear. It's not a race. It's not a race. We're silent moding. So it's been, when we found this hyena, it was actually on the run, going, and then it does this. Then it walks, and then it runs, and then it walks. Please stop and turn around, hyena. Nico, 7 years old. Can you believe that hyenas are not related to cats or dogs? They're their own species. They're in a family called the Hyenidae, so they don't belong to either. But they kind of look a little bit more like dogs because of they've got their claws out and their sort of general shape. But when you look at a hyena's head and you look at their skull, they're actually more cat-like. So there's something in between, but they're not either or, if that makes sense. That's quite cool. They're amazing, such amazing animals. But often people get confused because you see them and you think, and it does get quite tricky, especially when you start talking about their babies, Nicola, because then you would think that they would be called pups, but they're not. They're called cubs, which is normally what we call leopard and lion babies, is cubs. Hyena? Oh, yo, look at this, guys. You're in for a real treat this afternoon. We are going to see some very, very fresh hyena dung or feces. There we go. What have you been eating? Well, we might be able to find out. Big yawn? Oh, very worn teeth. Yes, very old hyena. Now, for those of you that have seen hyena feces before, you're probably wondering, why is it not white? It takes a little bit of time for it to sort of change color. Once it sort of dries out, then it doesn't normally get that sort of texture. There's also a lone impala. Where did that come from? Did you see that, Gert? It's just gone. There's a young impala, a young ram. He's run up in there. He's all on his own. Where are you going? Very dangerous. That's back there. Not all the herd. I think it's got confused. Maybe it's seen the hyena on the road and thought, oh, there it goes. There's my family. Sorry to disappoint. You might get eaten. Okay, we won't be driving over the dung feces, sorry. We can have a look at that tomorrow. We'll come back and look at that dung and open it up and see, but our hyena is just up ahead again. So I don't know where it's going. I don't think it's going towards a watering hole of sorts. I don't know if it's going to take a shortcut. Like I said, the den is actually, the hyena den is a road that runs just parallel with this road that we're on right now. So we can hopefully see what's going to happen. We went to the hyena den this morning, but sadly no luck. The little ones were tucked away in their hidey holes. So we'll just continue trailing this hyena and see where it takes us. Off you go back to Dylan, who's moved on from his...
Yeah, we're slowly getting bigger in our sightings, from the ground beetle to birds now. This is a very, very, very special bird on Tswalu. They are common, but they've got some beautiful features about them. So the male is the one on the left with those bands on its head. And then there we go. That's the male. And then the females with those other two that Jandra had initially in frame. So these are called double-banded Sandgrouse. Double-banded Sandgrouse. We've got three kinds at Tswalu. Double-banded, which is this one, the Namakwa and the Burchels. And there's a very, very, very interesting difference between them, apart from the coloration and that. The other two Sandgrouse, so the Namakwa and the Burchels, will only drink in daylight hours. And normally after 10 in the morning, 9:30, 10 in the morning, they start coming down to drink. These ones only drink after sunset and before sunrise. That is absolutely incredible. And there must be some really good adaptation for that. I would guess it's probably got to do with predator avoidance. Remember, we've been talking about lanner falcons and goshawks, those kind of things, frequenting waterholes for going for birds that come in. Well, if you're coming in after dark, you're probably eliminating the problem of an aerial predator that's hunting by eyesight. So that's pretty cool. The other key difference on these is that these ones only nest up in these mountains, these hills, in amongst the rocks, whereas the other ones are nesting out on the sand. So although they very, very closely related, there are certain key differences that distinguish them from the others. So the sandgrouse are an amazing group of birds. They're actually distantly related to waders. And I suppose you know, if you kind of look at them using your imagination a bit, you can kind of imagine a wading kind of bird there. But they've got a phenomenal ability that's enabled them to persist in these areas. They can respond to very, very erratic rainfall and very ephemeral rainfall, so which is typical of these arid areas. So you can get heavy rains in one area this year and nothing. But now when they've got chicks, once they've laid eggs, okay, well, they can't exactly decide, oh, okay, well, I need rain here. The rain will be where it is. They need this ability to be able to say, okay, there's rain 50, 60 k's away, and they get up and they fly. Then they'll sit and they do an amazing thing, and hopefully we'll be able to see it over the coming weeks, is it's something called belly wetting, where the males, not the females, the males actually walk into the water, and they soak this water into the feathers on the chest. And then they fly, they leave and they fly all the way back to the nest, and that's what, then the chicks actually sit and suck that water off the feathers there. Some estimates reckon, and again it'll be very, very dependent on the distance that they're flying back to the nest, but they can lose up to 70% of that volume of water on the way back. But just how incredible is that for an adaptation in these areas where you don't have a reliable rainfall pattern, and you've just got to have this completely fluid, excuse the pun, fluid ability to follow the rain. So, well, okay, I've got chicks, you know, they are, yeah, well, I can't do anything about that, but you know, I can fly, and off we go. So that's really, really cool. So obviously, you know, in more recent times with yeah, Leo just said, yeah, that sounds cool, and it is totally cool. I mean, it's just off the charts cool. But again, that just like really highlights that animals, organisms living in these kind of environments just have to have these abilities to survive. And I sound like, you know, that's saying, well, how incredible this ecosystem is, and like they're the only ones with these amazing adaptations. But we were chatting this morning and touched briefly on other ecosystems. A rainforest, something in a rainforest needs to be able to cope with massive amounts of rain, and that in itself is a super, super, super specialist thing. And there's really cool, interesting things like that. You find plants shall often try direct rainfall to their roots, you know, having a canopy that brings down. A lot of plants in those areas actually try to get rain away from the roots so they don't get waterlogged. So there's every environment, doesn't matter what you're in, there's fantastic adaptations at every level of life to survive in whatever ecosystem that they're in. But it was just nice seeing these little grouse. They're incredibly well camouflaged. Arlo Moore has actually asked if it's a learned behavior or if it's something that's innate to them, and this is hardwired into their systems. They don't need to learn how to get to water. There will obviously be that aspect of going with the parents, but this is instinctive. You know, they'll know, okay, rain, and off they go. So they've actually just crept around the bush. I'm going to go forward a little bit, just see if we can get another visual over there. It's very, very nice seeing, because they are incredibly cryptic. So at this time of the year, these ones aren't breeding. So that's why the males and females are down on these lower, these flat areas now. But the Birchall Sandgrouse, actually a couple of them have chicks now. And so if you get them sitting in the road, and our colleagues down in the Lowveld or Djuma, those areas have got Coqui Franklin. And those Coqui Franklin have got a habit of sitting dead still in the road without moving. And when you get these sandgrouse doing that on our roads, then you must look carefully, because they'll have chicks, and they are incredibly tiny, notoriously difficult to see. So, just looking at their behavior, no, okay, be careful now, there's chicks, and then you just give them time and they'll move off. I'm just going to try and get another glimpse, just because they're the coolest birds. And but in the meantime, I think head back to Nikki. I think she's got some, I think it was elephants. Anyway, she's got something cool. Go have a look there.
So we just moved around towards the water. I think the whole herd might eventually come down to drink. There was quite a few, I think one or a few individuals that came through to drink already. And then you'll see here, there's looks like a mother elephant and a calf that has come down to drink. But just look at the size of that big tree where they are standing under. Now that tree is known as a leadwood, and it's a pretty hard wood. I remember reading an article a while ago that apparently the wood is so hard that they actually used it to chop other wood with it. So it's pretty hard, and they do make quite a few, pots and quite a few things out of it. But I just want to have a look at those elephants. You'll notice the little one is already tucked in its trunk into the water and is having a good drink. Of course, mother's just moving around, probably just finding a nice area where the water's a little bit clearer. Butterfly, I can't agree with you more. Like, this whole scene here is absolutely beautiful. Like, I mean, like, even if we look at the elephant, look at the sky, the different colors in the back, look at the shades of green and gray in the trees. And then if we can, I'm going to ask, if we go slightly left, you even notice the sun setting. I'm just going to wash my head just so you can see it, but look at that for a scene. And who knows, those elephants aren't too far away from this waterhole. So who knows, maybe that whole herd of probably 50 elephants will come down to drink. So I think it'd be really worth it for us just to spend some time here and see if that's going to happen. But on this note, because I was hoping that if we do find some leopard tracks, I just want to relate back to it. But with my last drive, there was a lady called Lauren that asked me a very good question about why leopard urine smells like buttery popcorn. And I haven't forgotten about it. I wrote it down in my little notebook, and I thought maybe at some point I'll get back. So just because of how beautiful the scene is, I'd love to just mention that while we're having a look at some of the elephants coming down to drink. Now, Lauren, with that question about why leopard urine smells like buttery popcorn, is so apparently there's a chemical compound within leopard urine known as, they write it down as 2-A P. And that same compound, when you take the popcorn kernel and you put it in, of course, and it heats, the sugar and the protein forms a reaction, and that releases the same chemical that you do smell in leopard urine, or the same chemical that you do find in leopard urine. So apparently that was all. I wrote down the little research if you want to go have a further look on it, but it was an article, and it was called The Signs of Nature. So it's a very good article to go and read about it, but it was very interesting because I do remember a little bit about it, but I couldn't remember well enough. But hopefully you are watching and be able to answer that question. But back to these beautiful elephants. Now, Owen, here it is. So look right in front of us. I'm going to lower my head, but right in front of us, these elephants are all coming down. So you'll notice them now. See the bush right in front of us? So you'll notice off just in front of us on the road, there's a few that already started making their way. Now, I think it's not going to be long before the whole herd starts moving on the side of the bank. There we go. I can already see one coming out. There's quite a few. As I'm watching this, I'm a little bit speechless, so do forgive me if I don't say too much, but I think let's just sit here and enjoy this. So you might just hear, as we're sitting, you might just hear it sounds like pipes. or like this howling sound, and all that is the wind that's blowing in. So a few of the vehicle parts have these holes in it, so basically the wind blowing over those holes, and that's what you might be hearing. Sounds like a pipe in the background, or a howling sound. Wow, there's still, like as we speak, there's still elephants heading down this way. Jessica, age 7 from the UK. So elephants pretty much live anywhere in this big area. So of course you'll find them, unlike most animals that will have a, let's say like aardvark or warthog that would have a hole that they go into. Most animals probably have a place that they wander to, but elephants, pretty much everywhere they can move, and they're not restricted by possibly human settlements or fences or that. They can pretty much go anywhere and live anywhere they want, needing to say though that there's enough food for them as well as water. But you do get some elephants, like the desert elephants, that wouldn't go long periods of time without water. But just have a look here. I'm going to try and count how many elephants can we see. I've already counted 41. This is incredible, and there's actually more elephants coming. Well, I can't agree with you more. That's a very sharp comment. I do agree. I know also how many there are, and there's a lot of them here. So as they're all, like all of them having a drink, and while all the others have a drink, the little one is using the opportunity just to get a bit of warm milk. I think that's a very good idea. But I think while we're going to have a look at them and look at the whole herd for now, we're going to send you back across to Dylan, who apparently has something in the distance.
So what Genre and I just wanted to show you here is when you look at these hills, we drive around on the bottom and you see giraffe and odds and ends and that, and it's really nice. But when you look at these hills and you think, oh, it's just like rocks and some bush and there's not much up there. And yet, when you sit and you start looking carefully and you take the time and you got a pair of binoculars, you start seeing things that don't jump out at you to begin with. And those ones may or may not be a new animal species for many of you. Those are called mountain reedbuck. And they are, as the name implies, there's, I think it sounds dead, it's dead obviously, as the name implies, they are very, very much associated, strictly associated with the hills. They will come down, if it's cooler like it is now, they'll sometimes come down and drink water, but normally it'll be after dark, well after dark, especially in the summer months. Very, very small little family groups. We've actually had a number of leopard kills along the bases of the hills on mountain reedbuck. So it's not like they're living the life of Riley up there with no predation. You might not get cheetah eating them up there, but certainly things like leopard. Caracal will catch little ones. Yeah. So they are incredibly cryptic. I mean, Martha's just said, oh, yeah, geez, now she sees it. And they are incredibly cryptic animals, not easy to see. So I'm very, very pleased there was a lot of luck involved in seeing those. But while we're up there, to give you an indication of just how much life can be on these hillsides, Gendre, old Master Gendre, is going to pan across to the left, and you'll see a magnificent fig tree. And I will chat to you about fig trees. We'll see how much time we have now. But just above the fig tree and to the left, let me know when you got them, Gendre. Look at those kudu bulls. And through the binocular, I'm standing at the pair of binoculars. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5. I can see 5, 6. I got 6 big kudu bulls way up on the mountain slope over there. So at first glance, you look at these hills and say, well, there's not much up there, and yet there is a ton of stuff that utilizes these hills. And and these are just like the big obvious things that we can see now. But we'll chat a little bit later about the fig tree. But in the meantime, head back to Nicky. The elephants that he's got that side are doing some cool things.
So we're just sitting here, both myself and Owen, and we're stunned, because how do you explain this to someone? How do you find the words to explain this beautiful scene where nearly, 50 to 60 elephants come down to the water, all drinking? You can smell them. You can hear the low stomach rumblings of some of the ones, especially probably the matriarch as she's moving, giving that low stomach rumbling. You can see the whole herd now slowly starting to follow her. And of course, you can just hear some of them as they blow their trunks, pushing that water into their mouth. Samantha, they could all possibly be from the same herd, but there's also a good chance that it might be a few little family units that have joined together during this time. So often you do find that this time of the year where groups all join together. Now I'm thinking, just based on the variety that we find within this herd, I'm sure that it must be at least 3 or 4 different herds that have joined together. Often you find when food starts getting a bit more scarce in areas, you might find that the herd will then eventually split up into family groups of anywhere from 5 all the way up to 20. It could be a little bit more, could be less. But with a big herd like this, it is not something that you do see every day. I do remember the one day, of course, we have these stories that the rangers often share with one another. And apparently, one of the other rangers, Yapi, that you've all heard a lot about and probably seen with the little scarf around his face, but so apparently the one day he said he was driving in an area not too far away from here, and he said he stopped counting at 250 elephants that moved through the area. So it just shows you how spectacular it is, and the sheer amount of elephants that you could possibly get in this area. But also this, the whole scene. So Owen, from where you are now, if you go a little bit right, you'll notice there's a dead tree in the water. Just above that, there's a little elephant. So just slightly right of that. Yeah, there you see that big dead tree in the water. So just over that. No, it might be a little bit far, but there's a little elephant that's constantly charging the birds. So I just saw him like running with his ears flared out, trying to chase some of the birds away, and they flew off near the water. I know. Yeah, I think he might have moved off. Yeah, that one that's moving off now. But I remember Dylan earlier said that he saw some sandgrouse, and in this area we get the double-banded sandgrouse, and normally this time of the evening they'll head down to the water to come have a drink. And I think it might have been some sandgrasses that had one elephant probably just chased away. Umka, that, you know what I want to do? I'm going to ask Owen to quickly zoom out. So, you hear that? So, if you look at the tracker, do you know notice those holes that you see within the frame? And also there's a few, I mean, look, even on this side here. So, I'm going to just lean out of the way. So, where my hand is, Owen, to just pass right there on the end of the bulbo. You'll notice there's another hole. And so, the wind, as it blows over those holes, it goes like... So it sounds like a bit of music. It's actually Owen playing the pipes. He's orchestrated everything. Karishma, I would say, often with the little ones, the mom can definitely identify the individual calls. So as soon as a little one feels that it is too distressed, or it feels like the mom is separated, it would immediately make a sound, and of course mom would make her way back to the youngster. But it's incredible how even with such a big herd that the youngsters and the older ones can identify one another. But they don't get too stressed because they know that the other ones will also look after them. I think sometimes if there's some males that do move in, especially if some of the females are on estrus, it does put a lot of stress on the elephants, and so then you might find that the females might move quite quickly through an area to try and avoid the male, or possibly even if there's a threat. So let's say if there's lions or anything around, they might keep the youngsters all close and the herd quite close together. So just have a look at those youngsters playing, how they are rearing up and then jumping on top of each other's backs. Just look at that one trying to move up. So normally when it's this cold, this is how myself and Owen climbs on the vehicle. It takes a bit of effort. Just look at how that one is lifting that right. Yeah. Some type of move. Alright, we're going to still spend some time with these elephants, see when they move off. And probably from there on, we'll hear what Rowan, Sean, and Barney has been up to. But I think we're going to send you back to, was it Dylan that's heading through the bushes at the moment? So we're going to send you back to Dylan.
Sounds like they have been having some amazing elephant sightings over there. So our animal here, well, our organism is a little bit less mobile. And that's it up there on that tree over there, on that hill. It's look, that hill's on that tree. Can you believe it? No. So these trees are absolutely incredible. Down at Djuma, those areas, they've got a number of different species. This is the only species we get in our area. It's called a Namakwa rock fig. So that is a proper fig tree. There's not that many of them in the reserve, though. In certain areas, they love the very rocky areas, and they normally grow in slightly protected environments on the hills. They need the hills. You won't find them growing on the flatlands. What is amazing about these fig trees, and in fact it holds for any fig tree anywhere in the world, what we see as a fig is actually not, we say a fig is a fruit. It's not in fact a fruit. It's a flower. It's a modified flower. So if you cut a fig open, those ones that you buy in the shops, or you pick off a tree, you cut it open, and those are actually all the little flowers inside. The really fun part comes in, so well, how do these things get pollinated? And next time you have a fig, look on the one side away from the stalk. You'll see there's a tiny little hole there. And what happens is you get wasps, and some of them are minuscule. The figs on this one are smaller than your small fingernail. That's how small these figs are. Now it's also got a little hole. These wasps are that small that they can actually get inside there, pollinate, and then go out, and they'll carry on doing that to a number of different figs. And you must just imagine on a normal fig, these green table figs that you get, just how small that all is. You can imagine the size of them on these ones. I mean, it's some of these insects defy comprehension in terms of just how small they are, and yet still fully functioning parts of an ecosystem. Just anecdotally, I talk about these different species that I got, like my nemesis mammal here is like a snake weasel that I was telling about earlier. So we've got a butterfly that we think should occur here. And our colleagues down in the Lowveld, they may even still be on the wing at the moment, those butterflies. It's called a fig tree blue. This spectacularly beautiful small butterfly. It's 2.5-3 centimeters across, but it is iridescent azure, blue, and copper. Fantastic little butterflies. They occur in a huge range across South Africa, or Southern Africa, in fact, right up into Central Africa. I've yet to see one on Tswalu. So that's often when I'm walking up in the hills, I'll go from fig tree to fig tree to fig tree, hoping one day to find these butterflies. But I think one day I'll be right. Just, if I spend long enough doing it, I might come right with that. But yeah, so that's a Namakwa rock fig tree. So some people are asking about snake weasels, and the name is a bit of a interesting one. It can be a little bit confusing. We talk about a snake and a weasel. They are mammals. Okay, they are tiny things. They look almost. Imagine a skunk or a polecat that you compress and stretch out, make thin. And these little guys, they live almost their entire life underground. They are predators on small mammals, and you cannot, when you see them, if you actually have one in your hand, which I've never had the privilege, I've seen a lot of photographs of them, they're unmistakable. You can't say, well, is that a honey badger, or, the size, the length of the little things. But those who have been fortunate enough to see them, and we've had one person working on mole rats, Jackal, a number of years ago. He was actually incredibly lucky to have seen one in the flesh. And they've got this very peculiar, when they're moving above ground, they've got this very peculiar looping motion. And it's distinctive, and there's nothing else that moves like it. And so that's one of the ways. But these little animals have been seen by very few people. They are recorded over a very, very wide area. And pretty much wherever you get subterranean mammals, little rodents and that. So again, that's like high on my list of to-sees. It's almost like for genre on birds, he really wants to see a rattling testicular, but one day you'll get it right. But I think in the meantime, while I'm talking about testiculars and snake weasels, head over to Charlotte and see what she has on her side.
I promise I don't owe it money. Still giving me the eye, though. This is quite intense. Oh, it blinked first, though. There we go. I have one buffalo. These guys, there's 3 of them on their own here. And I came down this way because this is the way the lions would come in if they wanted to from the west. And I'm hearing a very faint further ahead. So if you don't mind, Sir Buffalo, I'm going to move further ahead and make sure that one of your friends is not on its deathbed. Thank you, kind sir. Just 2 of them there. Now that's the ideal situation. I thought they were calling a leopard in, but it was just tracks. This is ideal for a lion. There's 2 buffalo alone. Especially since the rest of the herd is quite far north, close to where we had those elephants early on. So this is a little bit exciting. I wonder, we'll have to get to the end of the road, but I wonder if we'll pick up any signs of there being lions around. The buffalo have been so noisy, I can't imagine that the lions would not have heard them. That would be thoroughly entertaining if the lions came through. I only saw them once this stint. It's not sufficient. Okay, here's the rest of the herd. Just stop here and listen. Here's a wee gap. How's that, BK? Hello, little one, practicing your stare. You are very good at it. You have some leaves stuck on you, which is just adorable. That's just it. Not only do I bully full-grown buffalo, but I also apparently take the pocket money of youngsters. That is the sound of a buffalo peeing. There's this little one again. Their stare is something else. Really, really is. Very, very cute. Very cute indeed. I was looking at the large males we saw earlier there and how big their horns are. And I thought, oh, they really look like they would fit perfectly as handlebars. So they are gorgeous creatures. Even though they resemble cows and we think, oh, how ordinary. But they are gorgeous. I'm so glad that it stopped raining, so at least we can make a fire this evening, given that all the firewood is not soaked. Butterfly, you say you agree with me? With that? I think that was a little call of appreciation there. So do you remember we have to make a fire so that we can have our fireside chat this evening? It's going to be Dylan and myself. Okay, Buff, you can be part of it too. We'll be chatting about everything. And I'll also take some of your questions. I will have to mention this buffalo tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a buffalo shout out. This is to my main buff. That's what I'm gonna have to do tonight with Dylan. Alright, I am sending you over to Nikki, I believe. All I could hear were bellows, but to go over, I hope it is him.
So after the elephants, we decided there's a little riverbed just south of where we were earlier, and we wanted to just go in there to have a look at these, or just see if there's any signs of lions. But just have a look. Right in front of us is two Waterbuck. It's a youngster and the mother right next to it. But normally with Waterbuck, they don't stick around for too long before they move off. But you'll notice that these ones are pretty relaxed. Just have a look at that little youngster on the side. You'll notice they have quite a long coat, very grey in colour. We had to go to infrared, unfortunately, because the light inside here is it's not too great, but hopefully we'll be able to see some different colours. So Waterbucks are the ones with the white ring around the bum. Just have a look at this youngster. Even look at the colour of the ears, and also that little white patch under the throat and just above the eye. And of course, hence the name Waterbuck is because you always find them, especially near the water, very water dependent. See when that youngster turned, just look at that white ring around the bum. Linda, they are very, very cute. I agree with you. Especially the youngster's face. You'll notice it has quite a very delicate but yet very fluffy face. Look at that. Almost resembles, part of the antelope family, almost resembles like the deer that ones find in Europe, especially in the northern regions, as well as in America and neighboring countries. Double H. They do have a little target on the back, but they can also use that target in order to slip away from the lions or any other predator. And you can see, like with the mother, even though she's keeping her head inside the bush, there's quite a few around, and they're constantly on the lookout to see if there's any potential danger. And often with these waterbuckers, they do hide their youngsters away so well, like often in a very dense patch of grass, and they'll hid them away. And basically what they do is they, of course, if the mother then needs to go anywhere else, and then come back and come and get the youngster. But the youngster almost knows not to move at all. And it will just sit there and you can barely see it, unless you know where to look, or if you've seen it there before, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to spot it. But you'll notice also, for them, they're on the side of this little embankment. So imagine all the water that runs down, all the nutrients that come down will wash down into this river. And so the grass here must be a lot sweeter than comparison to most areas. And that's probably what brought the mother here with the youngster. But the ring around the bum actually, like, I'm not too sure if they're born, if they're without it, but I've seen very young waterbuck, like probably only a few days after they were born, and they already had that white around the bum. It's very faint, and of course as they get older it starts developing a bit more, but you can still see it. So I would say they're definitely born with that. But very, very special to see. I think what we'll do is just quickly want to talk on the radio, because I think Rowan, Sean and Barney might have some good news for us. So let me just quickly get hold of them and hear what they have to say while we were enjoying these waterbuck. Yeah, Rowan, sorry, I was just live there. Go with your message.
We dropped about a branch on the road. All of them are stray. They are about maybe 20 centimeters north of the road.
Copy that, thank you. I'll make my way there.
Yeah, we're getting them to go fish. They actually go through water.
So apparently there's some good news. Copy that, thank you. So apparently there's some good news, so I just want to use that opportunity. So I just spoke to Rowan, Sean and Barney, and apparently, like right over here, so we're not too far away from it. So we are currently, let me just quickly get the water where we are at now. So we are currently right over here. Now apparently they found the lions just on the opposite side of where we are now, so probably 1.5 kilometers from where we are now. So what I think we'll do from here is we won't disturb them. I think we might take a different route back, and then from there on we'll start heading across and see if we can get those lions. I think while we do that, we're going to send you back to Tswalu with the last little bit of their sun.
So we are just enjoying the amazing light, the backlight on this colony of sociable weavers, and they are in and out, taking nesting material in. There are actually chicks in this nest at the moment as well, so occasionally we might get one actually taking a little mouthful of harvested termites in, which is pretty much what they're feeding these youngsters at the moment. I know you all probably can't hear them, but from where we're sitting here, we can actually hear these chicks squeaking every time the adults pop into the nest. And then relating this back to the cobra that we had earlier today, I think I mentioned before that these colonies can lose, an individual colony can lose up to 70% of its chicks in a season due to predation just by Cape cobras. And that's a massive number. But then if you look at the adaptation, now, you know, there's some good food around, a little bit of late rain, they can breed when the snakes are less likely to be active. And that's probably where you find them actually capitalizing on being able to get more chicks out in a season. I'm also really enjoying the how can I say it, about the snake weasel. There's some non-believers in the world, but if you're concerned, if anyone's concerned about the name, you can try striped weasel. That's another alternative, and I think it'll be a fun thing. We can start looking going forward. We can chat about the benefits of using scientific names. Not all, I mean, yeah, there's a huge amount and a lot of virtue to be had when we're talking about common names, but there's a very, very, very good reason that we use scientific names, especially on things like plants, where, you know, there are just so many different kinds and so many different variations. And so common names can often be misleading. And what, if you look at plants, what is called a Waterbuck in one area would be a completely different plant, but with the same common name in a different area. And that would be an example of snake weasels versus striped weasels. And the other one that's similar in South Africa to the weasel that we're chatting about are polecats, striped polecats. And they are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous little animals. And they actually frequently seen above ground. Now, there's a species we were talking about earlier this morning about things that are, some animals that are strictly nocturnal. And striped or polecats are, I've yet to see a polecat in broad daylight. Oh, this is very interesting. Okay, there's two little birds coming in here now that actually don't normally belong in this nest. They often, I'm so glad you're hearing it now. There's one bird that was going, I can't imitate the sound, I'm awful. But these little birds are called ashy tits. Ashy tits, and they actually just use these nesting chambers for sleeping in. They don't even breed in them. They normally breed in little hollows in trees. And I'm just trying to, yes, it's going to be so difficult for Genre with this light to actually pick up which one is which. So I'm not even going to try, but it's just interesting. Okay, they've actually flown around the back here. So it's interesting to note that these weaver colonies are not just host to the weavers themselves that built them, and then you get the pygmy falcons that actually nest inside them, but there's a lot of other birds. There's at least 7 other species in this environment that'll actually use these nesting chambers for sleeping in or roosting in the evenings. That includes pied barbets, red-headed finches, these little ashy tits. So these sorry, I'm just going to move off here. So these nests are super, super, super important shelters, especially now in winter when these nighttime temperatures are dropping so low. But yes, this light is just simply magnificent. Are you enjoying it, Jandre? Jandre's saying no, he's not. Jandre wants to be doing some bird watching, but he says he's ticked all of these ones so far. Joy, that's a good one. Yeah, Joy from Hong Kong says she would call this an Airbnb. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what they say about birds in straw houses? I've absolutely no idea what they say about birds in straw houses, but I'm sure we could think of something. Yes, this is beautiful. This light. So Josh from Scotland has asked, what kind of tree is this? And do these weavers always construct their nests in this kind of tree? So this tree is called a camel thorn tree. Senegalia areoloba. It actually used to be, we know it as acacias. That's a common term for them. And interestingly, I mean, there's recently been a whole thing about the change from all of our acacias to Vachelia and Senegalias. They split up, so ones with straight thorns are Senegalias, ones with hooked thorns are Vachelia. Oh, actually, sorry, this is Vachelia areoloba, so it's the other way around. So if it's straight thorns, it's Vachelia, Senegalia's got hooked thorns. And Australia actually managed to keep the name acacia for all of their ones, which don't have thorns. And acacia actually means a spine or a sharp point. So these are now Vachelia areoloba, a camel thorn tree. And these weavers, they love building their nests in these trees because they've got very, very rough bark. And that means that when they start building the nest, that's the crucial part. Not once it's got big. It's that initial starting point is when they're starting to try thread little pieces of grass and twigs into it. They need that rough bark that they can wind these little pieces into to anchor it. And then the nest starts getting a mass of its own, creeping from branch to branch, as they keep adding more material to it. So, and this nest that we're seeing here is about the length of a game drive vehicle, marginally shorter in total. I'm kind of giving you a rough idea now of a normal vehicle, a normal sedan. It's about that length. and it's from the ground up, it's about the height of a little bit lower than the height of a sedan. Now, if this nest was lying on the ground. In terms of the number of birds inside here, you probably get 30, 40 different pairs in a nest this size, and they keep adding to it. You know, as chicks survive till adulthood, you get like these extended family groups. So you can have a number of different family groups within this colony, and they keep adding onto their sections of the nest. Well, Chandra, now we're going to move down the road here, leave these birds to do what they need to do before going to bed, and I think head back over to Steve and see what he's up to that side.
It is dark, Dylan. It is dark and cold. At least the rain, though, has stopped. We had Tundi for quite some time, and then we lost her. Gave us the Tundi slip. But we went towards the eastern boundary, and we found tracks from where she came in. And she brought the cub with her. So it's too dark to be following up on cub tracks now. But I found where she came in. And then she checked out a den, then went and got the cub and then came back again. And then we found her down in the Mawati hunting. So we're just driving another loop on the way, see if maybe she's walked back this direction, but she went into a bush and she just didn't come out the other side. So maybe she's still in there. We don't know. But very good news. That'll be what I'll be trying to do in the morning, trying to pick up on where that female beautiful Tundi and her cub have gotten to. It's not very easy though after the rain. Directly after the rain it's okay, but the ground gets hard for a few days afterwards. Penelope, Tundi's a mover indeed. You haven't truly worked her until you've received the Tundi slip. She can be right there and then gone. It's happened to me many times. That means she likes you. Okay, well, I have no doubt Trishal and Adu's got something of interest for you. I'll send you back over to her.
Surprise, surprise, I found a chameleon. It's in a different spot. I haven't ever found a chameleon on Impala Road before. And it's a really good visual. It's also, believe it or not, in the middle of making a move. We'll wait patiently. Each move is very deliberate, very slow, controlled, very strong. Figure out where you want to go. All waiting for that second arm to move. I think we're giving it stage fright. Everyone act like you're not looking. Nope, not working. It'll bring the arm up soon. It's just awesome to watch because so often we just see them totally still. There. Can you see that bulge that looks like an Adam's apple? That's part of the whole hyoid structure that allows it to project its telescopic tongue so far. Actually bulges out like that. So careful. This is an awesome, awesome view. I would love to see a chameleon hunting. I think it would just be awesome. Oh, there we go. Sea cantrell, you'd like to know if he's moving extra slow because it's being watched. I actually think it's a she. No, this is the rate at which they move. A little faster if they want, but it's not necessary for them to move much faster than this. Their main form of defense is their camouflage. Okay, I just want to watch it bring the tail over. That was not the sound of his tail moving, everyone. That was the sound of my blueberry container moving. Stunning. We just watched 4 limbs and the prehensile tail of a chameleon move. That is pretty awesome, guys. Amazing, guys. That was so awesome. We got a really good shot of its feet, tail, eyes, head. Awesome all around. But I think we're going to leave this little critter and send you over to Nikki with some lions that are moving as slow as this chameleon.
So thankfully Barney, Sean and Rowan tracked really hard this evening and they were able to find the whole pride. I haven't seen the female with the very small cubs, but I do see in the middle here is that young no longer sub-adult, but that young male, and this is part of the Birmingham pride. So that was the male that had the injured leg, the one right in the middle of the screen. I know a lot of the viewers were asking about him and wondering where he is and what he's doing. So he is with the pride, and the Ross males are also here. And just look at how they're tolerating him because he's lying down in the middle of the pride. And also know one of our viewers, Catherine, that's also watching, was very concerned about him, but luckily he's managed to recover quite a bit. So that's so nice to see. The whole pride is here now. We can't see those 2 Ross males because they are lying down just off to the right of where we are now. But it'll be interesting to see what these lions are going to do, because earlier on, as we were sitting here and watching them, we could hear some lions calling behind us, so more in our easterly direction, so they're west of where we are, so in the opposite direction. And a few of them actually lifted their heads to have a look. So I don't think it's either. It could be that young female that is part of the pride with young cubs, but normally they would respond. But just have a look at that. It'd be interesting to know if it's a different pride. You might find that these lions would eventually also start roaring just to establish their territory. But also just where they are lying down at the moment. It's a nice area close to one of the riverbeds, and it's very well concealed. You'll notice there's very little movement of the grass, so they're basically out of the wind. To even look at the leaves here, I mean, in comparison to where we were with the elephants, you could clearly see the leaves moving and proud with the jackal. But where we are now, very wind still. I think that's why the lions decided to come and lie down here. You see the belly of this one as it's rolling onto her back. So often if they've had a good meal, it's more comfortable to lie on their back than to lie on the side. And that's what that one's laying, or lying down in that way with the foot up in the air. But I can imagine quite tired, because from where they were seen yesterday, remember yesterday the elephants chased them, and I think this afternoon it might have been the same. They were chased by elephants as well, because those big herd we saw earlier at the waterhole was not too far away from here, and I actually think that that herd could have chased these lions. And eventually they came into this area, found it was nice and a bit warmer than some of the other areas because it's out of the wind. Marinda, it is pretty cold at the moment. So myself and Owen, actually where we are now with the lions is a little bit warmer than just out on the road, because on the road it's a slight crest, so there's a bit of a breeze blowing and it is so cold this evening. But of course here it's a little bit warmer. There is a late afternoon, early evening breeze that is moving through the drainage line. You might see a bit more of the grass moving now, but I think that's one of the other reasons why these lions are lying down. Probably had a good meal, hence some of them lying down with their bellies up, feet splayed open, also panting quite a bit. But then of course there's no need for them to really move, so they might just lie down here for the next little while before they eventually start getting up and moving, or get up to move. Just look at that one right there. How comfortable is that? Even look at the paws, how they're tucked over each other. It looks like the tongue is out. Yeah. King Safari, they absolutely sleep like cats. Just the whole, like, if you look at their whole demeanor, their whole, like their body language here, they are basically, if you had to compare it with the behavior, of course, a lot more dangerous than a normal house cat. It all depends who. Like my grandmother had quite a ferocious little house cat called Zorro. But just the whole way that they lie down do often resemble some of the cats that we might find at home. I could hear one of the Ross males getting up. And hopefully eventually, or hopefully later on, he starts moving a bit closer. You can see that young male also in the middle of the pride, just slowly started lifting his head. Probably just having a look to see where that Ross male is. But we'll stick with them for the next little while. I think while we're enjoying them here in the dark, in this drainage line, we're going to send you back to Tswalu Kalahari, because apparently the sun is still setting there.
Yeah, we heading down to this pan over here. I'm hoping, now the sun has gone down, and I'm hoping that we'll actually be still early enough to get the double-banded sandgrouse coming in to drink. But just before here, we've actually got some eland bulls. Some eland bulls here on the left. They're very, very shy animals normally. Can you see them, Chandra? Let's see if they actually move out into the open there a little bit. Can you see them from your angle? Yeah, that's Murphy's Law. They timed that one perfectly. I'm actually going to try, see if we can go forward a fraction here. These are massive, massive antelope. It's the largest ones we have on Tswalu. Okay, there they're coming out into the open there now. There you go. Look at those. Oh, wow. Wow, and those colours, eh? That grey on the neck. Beautiful russet brown on the body. And that dewlap. You see that big flap of skin hanging down? And that's very, very, got a lot of fat inside there. So it's obviously very, very good. Especially in drought conditions, very, very dry, arid conditions. And it's way more noticeable on the bulls than on the cows. So the lions on Tswalu catch quite a few eland. It's a very important prey species for them. It is gorgeous, eh? Yo. And they've got this incredible ability for all their size. Okay, not so much the big bulls, but the cows and the younger animals can jump incredibly well. Incredibly well. We've got those Kudu bulls that we saw earlier in the fig tree. Throughout southern Africa, those are renowned for jumping, and they go over fences, and these eland are a very, very, very close second to them. And if you get these big herds, those of you saying they're hulking and large, that's exactly it. They get larger than a lot of breeds of cattle. In fact, I mean these, ones at Tswalu, probably looking at between 700 and 800 kilograms, and that's a big animal by any standards. But they're beautiful. I think this is one of my favorite antelope. These and bushbuck. We don't have bushbuck here, but I think eland and bushbuck and sable, ish, and steenbuck. I've got a lot of favorites. That's the problem. They're all my favorites. The lions that Nikki has seem to be waking up. So we're going to look for sandgrouse drinking and head over that way.
So one of the Rossmouths just got up and he started moving closer to the pride. Also the other one is up as well. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen from here, if the whole pride is eventually going to get up, or what this Rossmouth is going to be doing. Because remember that young subadult, or that young male was lying down in the middle. Oh, the young cub needs to move because that male is just marking his territory. So he's just urinating on the ground and rubbing his back feet through it. One of the ways just to scent mark. But look at his belly. I mean, he had quite a lot to eat. So a few of them are up, but I think with full bellies, of course, sometimes the bush does call you for some business before you need to go back and lie down with the others. So let's have a look at this male. So often they call it a phlegm grin. When they lift up their head and you'll actually see, oh, there we go, he's actually doing it at the moment. So there's a little organ called the Jacobin's organ that's situated just above the upper palate of the lion. And so anyway, whenever he smells, it moves through that organ and then it enhances the smell. So that's his way of being able to tell, let's say if the female urinated there, if she's either in estrus, if she's ready to mate or not. And that's one of the ways you can tell. So it'll be interesting to see when he shows his face, because often you'll see the nose will wrinkle. And of course, he'll pull his upper lip up and exposing his teeth. Kerry, I agree with you. It does look like a very funny smile, especially if I'm just hoping that he can look at us so we can show you. But I think he might just flop down again. Of course, like as we mentioned, I mean, throughout our drives and as we were, belly up, foot up, belly out. Now, as we mentioned, often with lions, because they're so lazy, they need to conserve quite a bit of their energy. So I wonder if after they've been chased by the elephants, how long they've been in this area. They might have been lying down here for maybe the last 12, 13 hours, maybe even longer. You can see this is that young sub-adult male, but look at his leg. So you notice there's a little black patch on that left leg there. Now that's where it had that wound the other day. And if you notice at the back leg, it's a little bit more muscular. So every time he lies down, he actually stretches that leg, which is really good because at least it gives it strength and the muscles can recover again. And at least with the pride, they still tolerate him within the pride. And because of that, he'll be able to heal up quite well. You can see the Rossmel moved in. The Rossmel moved in. All of them were a little bit disturbed, but now just getting more and more relaxed. However, Charles, I do agree with you. Like, I can't wait. And imagine if we can get these lions to roar before the show closes. And you know what? It can happen in the blink of an eye. You'll just notice the one just gets up. And once the one starts, then the whole pride will just join into that. But then, of course, I mean, we always tease and say that these are lions. And so often they follow their own way. But there's always a chance. Just look, I'm just having a look. Now, this sub-adult has a bigger paw than that of the Rossmels. But look at how broad his mouth is in comparison to his paw. Now, and I know the camera often, if you look on the camera at this lion, it looks a little bit smaller than it actually is. But I think this is going to be probably one of the biggest male lions if he is able to get to around about 6 or 7 years. You'll even notice, like right in front of his chin, on his left paw, there's those little black markings. And that's basically where the claws are tucked in. And I wonder if it wasn't one of those claws from probably the Rossmels that injured his back leg that badly, because they're really sharp, and then allowed for that infection to happen. So, over the last little while, I think all the rangers, and I know all the viewers are wishing him a fast recovery, but all the rangers over the last while, we were very concerned about him. Because, I mean, we've been watching him for over 3 years now, like close to 4 years. And I just want to see, I think the other Rossmel, no, we're just trying to see. I think he might be at the back there, but it's hard to see because of the vegetation. However, so we've been watching for such a long time, and to see him injured like that and possibly a chance of him losing his life was quite heartbreaking. But seeing, of course, and being a lion, they're very resilient, and he bounced back so quickly. And it's just really nice to see. And that's the thing, like, if I had to make a guess of if they do start roaring, who would it be? I would probably say one of the Rossmels could possibly start it. Maybe that one female that we had in the beginning that moved a little bit. I think if she starts it, probably some of the older ones. There's one here specifically that's the mother of pretty much most of the youngsters you see here, and some of the older females. So I think if she starts, there's a good chance that the whole pride would just move in. But then, of course, we'll just have to patiently wait it out. And I think with lions, they do have a lot of patience. Except the little ones, they don't have too much patience. So I think while we're going to spend some time here and hoping that there's a chance that they might roar a little bit later. We're going to send you back to Tswalu, who's apparently with an hyena.
I have just seen Intima and Ribbon go into this drainage that leads from Gallego Pan to Bateleur Pan. They both had their noses to the ground, so they're sniffing something. But the Gallego camp is also nearby, so maybe they're sniffing out camp food. So when I went to the den today, I didn't see them, or this afternoon I didn't see them at all. Sure, they were out trying to get a meal. Not uncommon, especially since there's been more staff in today. I'm sure. I'm sure they're after the sounds of camp. Monique, you say, oh no, protect the kettle. Most definitely protect the kettle, because I need a hot beverage when I get back to camp. Protect the kettle. I should just scream from here. Protect the kettle, everybody. Lauren, put away your shoes and protect the kettle. That's what I should be saying. I'm going to grab a hot beverage when I go back and then start making a fire for our fireside chat. I hope you all will join us. I'm going to have a Dylan. He's going to be my guest, and we're going to both be sitting by some fires. We're going to have a virtual fireside chat. It'll be on Instagram Live at 7 p.m. Central African time, and just an hour after drive closes. It's an hour from now. We can relax, have a chat. You guys can ask what you like. Dylan and I will have a fat chat as well. I was hoping I'd find you a last minute something, but it appears it's my last minute face that you're going to be seeing. I'm hearing the occasional step, and there's only one animal that you can hear. Only one predator you can hear walk through the grass, at least for me, and that's a hyena. The cats are very, very stealthy. Even the dogs. Hyena just says, move out of my way, grass, I'm after the kettle. I can hear it. Well, off they went. Hopefully that means that there may be a kill in this drainage for us to check tomorrow morning, or keep an eye on the dam cam, because this drainage leads us straight out to the dam cam. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, it is that time of day or of night, but thank you for joining us on Game Drive and all your questions and comments, and please do jump on board in an hour and join us for Fireside Chat. See you later.